the voice of college football. I am your host, Matthew Miller. Will you guys please hit that like button. Please subscribe down below. It really helps out the channel. We're brought to you here by Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. As you see down below, scrolling across this banner, go over to his channel, subscribe. Go over to the Texas channel, subscribe. Hit the notification bell if you can, guys. And now, after you do that, after you do your little chores, settle in and settle down for another Texas Tuesday Live. That's what we do here at the Voice of College Football. We're going to be here every Tuesday. I know it was a little bit late today, guys. Usually 7:30. We pushed it back to about 8 right now, but that's fine. I'm going to be here. The latest I'm ever going to be here is 8, but I will be here every Tuesday leading up into the season, in the season, and after games during the season, so every Saturday as well. So please hit that like button. Please subscribe. Stay tuned for this Texas content. Today, we have the Big 12 quarterback rankings. We did the coach rankings last week, guys, and we're going to do Big 12 quarterback rankings. We're also going to break down Kansas and Oklahoma this week. Like I said, we're going to break down a couple games a week. So last week, we didn't break down any games. I promised you 2 more games this week, and we're going to get the Kansas and Oklahoma game. Obviously, I have Texas beating Rice, Wyoming, and losing to Alabama. So they are 2-1 in my predictions leading up into the season. We'll see what I decide today, guys. I've already decided, but you get to find out what I have chosen for the Kansas and Oklahoma game. Honestly, 2 decently hard games, in my opinion, starting out the Big 12 schedule. I don't think they're really hard or anything like that. I don't think either of these teams, in my opinion, finish inside the top 3. But I think there's a chance for either of these teams to finish inside the top 4. So good competitive games is what I see, especially when we jump into Kansas. Now, I'm going to get to some comments real quick. I'm going to ask you guys as well. Obviously, there's only a couple of you in here right now. But again, please hit that like button. Please subscribe down below. Would you rather have me get started with the top 10 or top 14 quarterbacks in the Big 12? Or would you rather me start with the Oklahoma and Kansas breakdown? That is up for you guys to decide. I am your host. I control what you guys want to do, basically, but I want to hear from you guys. This is democracy, in my opinion. I really want to hear from you. I want to know what I should talk about first. If I don't hear anything in the next 30 seconds, I'm just going to go ahead and probably jump into the Kansas and Oklahoma breakdown. But if you'd like to hear the quarterback list first, I have no issue with that, guys. Like I said, this is your show. Thank you guys for being here. Yeah, I hear you guys in there talking about the Jim Harbaugh situation. Obviously unfortunate for Michigan, but he's really not missing any hard games. They'll probably still end up being undefeated unless something catastrophic happens. So big deal for Jim Harbaugh. Missed out on some money and everything, but he'll be fine at the end of the day. He's at Michigan, in my opinion, for as long as he wants to be there, unless he just something goes terribly wrong at Michigan with him there. But I don't see that happening. He's kind of established himself, in my opinion, as the 3rd best coach in college football, maybe 4th if you want to debate that, but he's definitely top 4. So he'll be there as long as he wants to be. So we have 2 QBs first for Des Garrett and Ben. Des Garrett, I have not seen you in here, so please hit that like button. Please subscribe down below. This may be your just first time commenting, and that's perfectly fine here on Texas Tuesdays here at the Voice of College Football. But if you'd please drop a like, subscribe, go over to the Texas channel, subscribe there. Like I said, guys, we're trying to grow this Texas brand. I want to get this out there to as many people as I can. I love interacting with you guys. I love the questions. I love the conversation. I love breaking this stuff down and having a discussion afterwards with you. So we will get started with the quarterback rankings. Yes, we will. So number 1, in my opinion, and this may shock some people. It didn't shock the Big 12 media days because this is who they voted for number 1. I'm a Texas fan, obviously. That's why I'm here. But I'm not going to be biased. I put Steve Sarkisian, I believe, as my 9th best Big 12 coach. Yeah, so I'm not biased. Number 1, we have the man himself, Jalen Daniels. Jalen Daniels last year, 66.1% completion percentage, 2,014 yards passing, 18 touchdowns, 4 interceptions. Again, 5.5 yards per carry on the ground with 7 touchdowns. He played in 9 out of 13 games. And actually, guys, it's kind of weird. I may have to dive deeper into this. If Mark's in the chat or watches this later, maybe he can let us know in those comments. A lot of these guys missed a lot of games. I'm going to go down this list, and a lot of these quarterbacks missed a lot of games in the Big 12. I don't know if that's not normal. So we're going to have to see. But 9 out of 13 games played. He, in my opinion, is the number 1 quarterback coming into the season. Guys, I put a lot of stock into what you did last year. And then number 2 for me is the potential you have. Number 3 is a gut feeling. Those are the 3 main criteria that I used. Obviously, the eye test would be 4th. Jalen Daniels was the best quarterback in this conference last year. There's nothing to, and by the way, how much he meant to that team because they weren't as good without him. They just weren't. Jason Bean came in, did a pretty good job for Kansas, but they just weren't as good. Next up, we do have my boy, and you can argue with this. You really can. I'm not going to push back on it. I have him at 2. He played in 10 out of 13 games. He had a 58.1% completion percentage. He has to get better, guys, for this Texas team to reach their ceiling. 2,177 yards, 15 touchdowns, 6 interceptions. Obviously, basically his first year in college. He went to Ohio State, as most of you know, transferred, but he didn't play there. If he did, he played a couple snaps. Didn't really have any meaningful snaps. So last year was his first year. And Steve Sarkisian has brought that up. The biggest jump for his guys is normally from year 1 to year 2. So this is his second year in Austin. I expect him to take a big jump. If he can just get up to 64% completion percentage, guys, 64 is not a lot to ask for. I think for most college quarterbacks throughout their career, if you broke down the averages, 62, 63% is average. If he can just be a slightly above average in that area, guys, with the talent he has around him and what I expect from the defense, this team has a very high ceiling. If he becomes one of those guys where I said we will go undefeated if Quinn Ewers is in the top 5 in Heisman voting, if Quinn Ewers is in the top 5 in Heisman voting, you can book it, guys. I really believe we go undefeated. If he's not, and he's just a good guy, good, solid quarterback, I think we lose 1 or 2 games. And if he does what he did last year, we'll win more than we did last year. We went 8-5. We'd probably go 9-4, honestly. I think we'd win 1 more game just because the talent's better. So it's going to be interesting, but he is the second guy on this list for me. Next up, we have Dillon Gabriel, third overall on my list. He played in 12 out of 13 games. He had a 62.7% completion percentage, 3,168 yards, 25 touchdowns, 6 interceptions. Guys, he was very good last year when he did play. Obviously only missed the 1 game, and that was versus Texas. We got lucky in that Red River rivalry with Davis Bevel coming in, basically a tight end playing quarterback. That's why we beat them 49-0. I don't care. You can use it's still beautiful to look at that score 49-0, blanking your rival in the biggest game of the year. I don't think Dillon Gabriel turns that to where they win that game by any stretch of the imagination. I think it's probably a 42, 40, maybe to like 24 type game. We still win by multiple scores, but we don't blank them. He's too good of a quarterback to let that happen. He was also hurt again, guys. He didn't even finish all 13 games. Like I said, 12 out of 13. So he is my number 3 guy. So far, I think my list, obviously biased, it's my list. I think it's pretty good. If you guys have any problems with that, please drop them down in the comments. Let's get a debate going. I love a good debate. We had a little bit of one with the Big 12 coaches, but you guys obviously didn't give me that much pushback on that. Scott Satterfield was the one pushback I had from Cincinnati by Christopher Foote, if I remember right. But that's about it in that in the last week's discussion. So far so good on that. Number 4, this is where it kind of gets like hard, guys, to me. I think those top 3 guys are the top 3 guys, whatever order you want to put them in. But then we go to number 4, and that'd be Will Howard from Kansas State. 59.8% completion percentage. Again, not great, but 15 touchdowns, 4 interceptions. He also had 3 touchdowns rushing, guys. He split time with Adrian Martinez, and he got better as he played more. Obviously, that makes sense for most guys. They're going to get better as they play more. So I think he's got opportunity to grow. He sat for a while. He sat behind Skylar Thompson, had some spotty time in there because Skylar Thompson did get hurt quite often when he was at Kansas State, now a part of the Miami Dolphins. Actually played pretty well for them when he was called into action last year for the Miami Dolphins. And then we had Adrian Martinez, stayed relatively healthy for what Adrian Martinez usually did, honestly, but obviously never played all 13 games. Will Howard, like I said, came in 7 games, played okay. He didn't play great, but I think there's a lot of room for improvement from Will Howard. That's why I have him at number 4 on this list. Number 5 is a guy that when I watched him, I was like, this guy is like a next great guy in the NFL. I don't think he'd be great in the NFL by what I mean. Sorry, let me rephrase this. I thought he would be underrated and picked lower in the NFL and then go on to succeed and do pretty well in the NFL. And Blake Shapen, that's why I have a number 5. Sorry, I put Will Howard up there. He was 4. But Blake Shapen at number 5. He had a 63.3% completion percentage last year, 2,790 yards, 18 touchdowns, 10 interceptions. In my opinion, underperformed last year. Like I said, from what I saw in the Big 12 championship game the year prior when he had to come in, he played very well. And he played well in the spots he had to come in prior to that. So when he came in starting last year, I thought Baylor had really high upside, and he just didn't deliver. I think he will deliver this year a little bit more just because another year under his belt. And I expect big things from Blake Shapen. He throws a beautiful ball. He just like, honestly, if you're telling me to rank natural passers by throwing the ball, basically, I have him at number 2 on this list. I'd have him right behind Quinn Ewers. I think he's that talented. But for this list, he's the only guy, or one of the only guys on this list. He played 13 out of 13 games, so congratulations on that. But he has to get a little bit better. He wasn't terrible, but he's got to get a little bit better. Let's jump into these comments. I agree. Kansas Surfer Boy says, I agree. The Kansas QB was elite. When healthy, 100%. When he was healthy, he was fantastic. Best player in the conference. No Husker show tonight. I guess not. No Husker show tonight. Sorry about that. Never mind me. But please hit that like button. Please subscribe. We'll be here. Even if you don't want to watch my content all the time here on Mark's channel, just hit that like button. Hit subscribe. If you like Mark, do it for Mark. Please hit that like button. Please subscribe. Gabriel G5, good G5 QB. I mean, he was okay with Oklahoma, but I agree. Sandra Green, Ewers the best QB in the Big 12, not close. He's got to prove it to me. I agree talent-wise, but he's got to prove it stats-wise. That's why I'm at number 2. We're going to get back into this list. So number 6 for me is John Rice Plumlee. 63% completion percentage in his first year from Ole Miss to UCF. So he played with UCF last year. Plays baseball as well. 2,586 yards throwing, 14 touchdowns, 8 interceptions. So not prolific passer, honestly. Good and accurate, but doesn't really push the ball downfield. But this is what he does add to you. 862 yards rushing, 5.4 yards per carry, and 11 touchdowns. So in that Gus Malzahn offense, he's like a Nick Marshall type of quarterback. He can get by throwing, but he's a much better athlete and a much better runner than you would expect. That's why I have him number 6 on this list. To be honest with you, him and this next guy that I'm talking about are new to the Big 12, and I think you could switch them. But these are the 2 best incoming guys from the 4 teams that are coming in, and that would be Kedon Slovis. Fantastic year at USC. The first time I watched him at USC, I was very impressed. Really hasn't lived up to the hype since then. Played at USC, went to Pitt last year. Guys, he wasn't good at Pitt last year. He just wasn't. And a lot of that has to do with Pitt. Pitt's offensive line wasn't very good. The wide receivers were decent, but their offensive line wasn't very good. He got beat up a lot. Played in 11 out of 13 games. He had 58.4% completion percentage, 2,397 yards. And this is where it just shocked me, honestly. 10 touchdowns, 9 interceptions. That is not good. He's really gone downhill since that first year at USC. So hopefully he can get back to that form because he was fun to watch his first year at USC, and he replaces Jaren Hall, who had a good year at BYU. So it would not shock me if Kedon Slovis comes in, does a good job like the last 2 guys who have been there, which are Zach Wilson, Jaren Hall. So I think there's a possibility here for Kedon Slovis definitely to rise up this list. And I think the highest he could get in this conversation at the end of the year, guys, is 3. I really believe that. I think the number 1 and number 2 are locked in. I don't think that really changes. The order could change 100%. I think Quinn Ewers could go to number 1, Jalen Daniels number 2. But it'd be really hard for me to see Kedon Slovis pass up either of those 2 guys. And it kind of would surprise me if he even got to number 3 in Dillon Gabriel. But I think it is possible. Next up, we have Tyler Shout. A lot of people mispronounce his name. It's not really difficult to pronounce, but it's just a weird spelling, obviously. Tyler Shout. So I have him at number 8. And last year, 59.9% completion percentage, 1,310 yards, 7 touchdowns, 4 interceptions. He played in more than half their games, 7 out of 13 games. Donovan Smith, if you guys are familiar with him, came in and played a lot, and he's back in the Big 12 as well. He's at Houston, so we'll talk about him later in this list. But Tyler Shout, this guy has a cannon. Not super. I mean, he is accurate stats-wise other than last year. Last year he had a down year, but the year before he was good, and he was pretty good at his last year at Oregon before he transferred over to Tech. So if he can get back to that, where he's a little bit more accurate with the cannon arm he has, he can move up this list, but I like the spot I have him in right now, which is number 8. Next up, guys, we're going to go with Hunter Dekkers at number 9 from Iowa State. Very accurate. He played 12 out of 13 games, which is important to me. 66.1% completion percentage, 3,044 yards, 19 touchdowns, 14 interceptions. I thought he was pretty good last year. He's an accurate guy. He doesn't really push the ball down the field. He needs to work on that. And a lot of that is to do with Iowa State system. They're very conservative. They like to hold the ball onto the ball, let their defense get a break, and then also keep the ball in front of you on defense. So it all kind of plays into that. He's a talented guy. He came out as a 4-star recruit, one of the only high 4-star recruits Matt Campbell got, and he's been decent at Iowa State. He hasn't been great. To me, I think he's one of those guys where you could see a Brock Purdy type transformation from him. And what I mean by that is when he goes in the NFL, he's better than he was in college. I could 100% see that. That would not shock me. That's the type of guy he is. He's got good footwork. He's accurate. People can work with that in the NFL 100%. So that's who we have at number 9. And with you guys in here, can you please hit that like button? Please subscribe down below. It really helps out the channel. Thank you guys very much. Thank you for supporting everything we do here at the Voice of College Football. It really helps out Mark and what he's growing here. So please hit that like button. Please subscribe. I'm going to jump back in these comments real quick. I'm late. What happened with Jim? Jim Harbaugh was suspended the first 4 games, or he's at least being talked about as being suspended the first 4 games, I believe. He's a cheater, apparently. What did he exactly do? Okay, so you guys are on that. Back to the rankings. Number 10, the guy we talked about from Texas Tech, Donovan Smith. This surprised me because watching him, good athlete, but his completion percentage was much higher than I thought, honestly. I thought it'd be lower than this. 66.1%. He played in 12 out of 13 games at Texas Tech, 1,505 yards, 12 touchdowns, 8 interceptions. He replaces Clayton Tune, who was absolutely prolific in that Dana Holgorsen offense. It would not shock me at all, guys. I don't think Houston's going to be very good, but it would not shock me at all if Donovan Smith lit it up this year for Houston. So he could move up again, guys. I think this list after the top 3 is very fluid. I think many of these guys could rise up. Again, you could even debate that they could rise up to 3. Again, I think 1 and 2 are locked in. Whatever order you want to put them in, Jalen Daniels, Quinn Ewers is up to you. But those 2 guys to me are locked in. If you want to debate 3 through honestly about 10, you can do that. This is where it gets iffy to me, and we will talk about the next guy I have up. Alan Bowman. I was in love with this guy when I watched him at Texas Tech. Then injuries happened. He went to Michigan for whatever reason with J.J. McCarthy there, just rode the bench. So I have to give you stats from 2020 because that's the last time he played any meaningful snaps. In the 8 games in 2020, 64.7% completion percentage, 10 touchdowns, 7 interceptions. He replaces Spencer Sanders at Oklahoma State. So it's going to be interesting, guys. It really is. I don't know how he's going to do at Oklahoma State. I don't know how Oklahoma State's going to do. They're kind of, I don't know if they're underrated or overrated right now or perfectly rated. They're ranked 7th in the Big 12 coming in. I have him ranked as the 11th best quarterback. It's good. That honestly, Oklahoma State is the what if team to me. That I don't know what's going to happen with them. They could be really good. They could be really bad. They could be right where they're at, number 7. I don't know. It's going to be very interesting. And I have Alan Bowman at number 11 leading the Cowboys. Number 12 on my list, as we start to go dumpster diving here, no offense to these guys, is Chandler Morris. Obviously came in from Oklahoma, transferred, was promised or won the job last year at TCU, and he lost it very quickly. Max Duggan took over. He's only played 13 games in 3 years, and those 13 games, 65.7% completion percentage, 4 touchdowns, 0 interceptions. But honestly, that's not enough for me to have any, like, that's why he's so low. I don't know what to think of this guy. He hasn't played in any meaningful snaps. Obviously, if you have a 13 games over 3 years and you've only thrown 4 touchdowns, you're taking garbage snaps. That's exactly what he's doing. So I don't know what to expect from Chandler Morris. I don't know what to expect from TCU, and that's why he's number 12 on my list. Number 13, a guy you've probably heard of, a guy that was heralded coming out of high school, went to Florida, transferred to Arizona State. Now he's at Cincinnati, and I think Cincinnati's in for a rough year because you have Emory Jones as your quarterback. You lost Luke Fickell. That defense isn't going to be as good as it was last year, especially 2 years ago when it was amazing. Not going to live up to that level. He replaces Ben Bryant, who was pretty good last year. They won 9 games with Ben Bryant at the helm. They would be lucky to win 6 this year, honestly, with Emory Jones at the helm. 62.8% completion percentage, 1,533 yards passing, 7 touchdowns, 4 interceptions. He's just not that good, guys. He really isn't. He has 31 rushing yards, 4 touchdowns. Not much to say about him. He played in 8 out of 13 games. Emory Jones is right where he belongs on this list. And the only reason he's not 14 is because this next guy is an unknown to me. He played in 9 games, Garrett Green for West Virginia, but he split times with JT Daniels for most of the part. In his playing time, he had 493 yards, 5 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. To me, at the end of the year, this guy will probably overtake Emory Jones. Honestly, I think Emory Jones ends up being the worst quarterback in the Big 12 this year. But for now, I have to put him here. He hasn't had enough playing time. At least Emory Jones has some playing time over his career between Florida, Arizona State, and Cincinnati now. But at the end of the year, Emory Jones, I'm pretty confident, will be the worst quarterback in this conference. And then you can have a debate from there on out, honestly. So we'll have to see what happens. If you guys disagree with any of my list, let me know. I'm going to run down it again real quick. So, number 1, we have Jalen Daniels from Kansas. Number 2, we have Quinn Ewers from Texas. Hook 'em. Number 3, we have Dylan Gabriel, Oklahoma. And it is 8-18, and Oklahoma still sucks. Number 4 is Will Howard, Kansas State. Number 5 is Blake Shapen, Baylor. Number 6 is John Rice Plumlee from UCF. Number 7, Keaton Slovis, BYU. Number 8, Tyler Schau, Texas Tech. Number 9, Hunter Deckers, Iowa State. Number 10, Donovan Smith, Houston. Number 11, Alan Bowman, Oklahoma State. Number 12, Chandler Morris, TCU. Number 13, Emory Jones, Cincinnati. Number 14, Garrett Green, West Virginia. That is my list, guys. If you have any problems with that list, drop a comment in there. Honestly, the Big 12 at quarterback, other than the top 3, is pretty bad this year. I know Mark was talking about on his channel a while back, ranking the conferences based on quarterback play. Just by looking at this, I think out of the Power 5 conferences, I think the Big 12 has the worst quarterback play, honestly. After the first 3 gets pretty rough, guys. Now, are there a lot of guys in here that could definitely have good seasons? Yes. I believe, honestly, anywhere from 11 up could possibly have a good season. I don't think Chandler Morris is going to have a good season. I don't think Emory Jones. I don't think Garrett Green. But I think a possibility for Bowman is there. Alan Bowman, Donovan Smith, Hunter Deckers, Tyler Schau, John Rice Plumlee, Keaton Slovis, Will Howard, Blake Shapen, and then obviously Dylan Gabriel and Jalen Daniels and Quinn Ewers. I think all of these guys can have good years. We'll have to see. But there's just so many what ifs in this conference. Even, my gosh, there's what ifs at the top. What if Quinn Ewers just stays same at 58.1% completion percentage? That's a not a very good quarterback conference. If you're a top 3 or 4 quarterback in that conference, or is expected to be, and then you're really relying on Jalen Daniels at that point to carry the conference. So it's going to be interesting, guys. The Big 12 is wide open in many ways, at many positions, quarterback being one of them. And honestly, other than Texas's roster, everyone else's roster is kind of jumbled. We'll see what happens, guys. I think the Big 12 is going to be the most fun conference to watch. I'm not saying it's going to be the best, because it's not, but it's going to be one of the most fun, if not the most fun. I think it's going to be the most fun, personally. Jump into these comments real quick. We're just not even talking Texas tonight. We're talking Jim Harbaugh on my Texas channel. Come on, guys. This is a Texas show, or at least a Big 12 show. We're talking about the Big 10. Oh, come on, guys. No, I'm kidding. I'm willing to talk anything college football. But that was my quarterback rankings. Guys, if you have any questions, concerns, drop them in that chat. Dependent Fanatic, 100%. It will be. It's wide open. Honestly, from number 1 is Texas, in my opinion. I think we have the best roster. After that is wide open. We could play. I'm going to name the teams we could play in the Big 12 championship, and it wouldn't surprise me. Texas Tech wouldn't surprise me. Oklahoma wouldn't surprise me. Kansas State wouldn't surprise me. Oklahoma State wouldn't surprise me. UCF wouldn't surprise me. Kansas wouldn't surprise me. That's probably it. So, like 6 teams, basically, I think we could play, and it would not shock me. I know people are going to get angry because I didn't put, TCU in there. TCU is not going back to the Big 12 championship game. They lost too much. I don't believe in Chandler Morris whatsoever. West Virginia obviously isn't. They're going to be the worst team in the Big 12. Cincinnati's definitely not. Might be. They're probably the second worst team. Houston's definitely not. Iowa State's definitely not. Yeah, half this conference, honestly, guys, there's 7 teams in this conference that could win the Big 12. I really believe that, which is crazy. There's no other conference in the country you can say 7 teams could possibly win. The SEC has 3 or 4. The Big 10 has 3. Maybe 4 if you want to argue Wisconsin. The Pac-12 has 4 max. And then the ACC has 2. And the ACC has Florida State or Clemson. So it's going to be interesting. LOL. Yeah, Mark's crew is Big 10 heavy. They are, and I respect that. I live in Ohio, guys, if you guys didn't know that already. I'm a Texas fan. I know my life would be much easier if I was an Ohio State fan. I know that. I've been told that. I'm not going to be an Ohio State fan. I never will be an Ohio State fan. I grew up around these people. I'm not a fan of Ohio State. Never will be. They're obnoxious. I'm good. How would you rank the QB play of each conference? That's very good. Question, Ben. The Big 12 is either 5th or 4th. They're 5th or 4th. Pac-12 is number 1, period. End of story. It's not close. You got Michael Penix Jr., you have Bo Nix, you have Caleb Williams, you have DJ Uiagalelei. Let's see. Those top 4 right there are all you need to know about the Pac-12. And then there's more guys. Cam Rising, I didn't even mention him. Those are your 5 best quarterbacks. They're number 1. The SEC is down in the in the quarterback play too. I think the ACC honestly probably is the second best quarterback play. I mean, after that, I guess I'd go SEC, Big 12, Big 10. I don't know. I'd have to look. I can look into that and answer that question better with a little bit of research. Big 12 is definitely fourth or fifth in my opinion. If I had to just go off gut, I'm going Pac 12, ACC, SEC, Big 10, Big 12. That would be my guess. Don't sleep on the UNC. Now, UNC has obviously Drake May, but I just don't see them winning the conference, guys. Mac Brown, no offense, underperforms whenever there's any type of expectation, and when he has, in my opinion, good enough rosters, he just doesn't do as well as he used to. I think honestly, he kind of looked at UNC as kind of a retirement job, like it's a nice place to cash checks, win 8 or 9 games a year, and you're not going to get fired, and that's how he looks at it, honestly, in my opinion. Ben, amen to not being an OSU fan. Yeah, I can't really stand them. I'm literally looking to my right now, and I see an Ohio State Buckeyes 2002 national championship banner because my parents are Ohio State fans. So not a fan of that, but you can only control what you can control, my friend. So I'm a Texas fan. All my Texas memorabilia is in my room. When I own my own house, it'll be Texas memorabilia now. I love Texas. I will always love Texas. I've loved them since I was in, first grade. So it's going to be fun. Hopefully, it'll be interesting to see. I'm praying for a good season, guys. I just want a good season. We haven't had a good season since 2009, and that left a sour taste in my mouth. You know, Colt McCoy gets injured. We don't get to finish out the way I want to finish out. And I didn't even get to watch the 2005 national championship game. I was too young. My parents obviously had a bedtime, and my parents said go to bed, so I went to bed, and I was unable to watch that game, which turned out to be the best college football game ever played. I mean, even if you don't agree with that, it's top 3, and I didn't get to watch it. So it really sucked. That was the only other time in my life that Texas won a national championship. Honestly, all my sports teams right now are struggling, so I really need them to cash in a good season for me. Even 10-2 would be fine. I'm 100% fine with that. I think 10-2 to me is the bottom. I think 11-1 is the high point. I think 10-2 realistically is losing to Alabama, then losing a Big 12 game, and I think that's what Texas is fully capable of doing that in a weaker Big 12 with the roster that they have. Wow, Dependent Fanatic. I have Texas going 12-1, making the playoff. That would be awesome. I would freaking love that season. I don't even care if we won a playoff game. Honestly, we have the talent to do it. If you look at if Quinn Ewers just lives up to his talent, we have the second best tight end in the country. We have one of the 5 best offensive lines in the country. We have the second or third best wide receiver room in the country. We have, in my opinion, a top 12 cornerback room. We have a top 5 safety room in the country. I really like the talent there. Linebacker, we're a little thin, and we have a lot of good C+, B- guys on the defensive line. We don't have any studs, so that's where we're a little bit weak. But we've gotten so much better at the line of scrimmage with Steve Sarkisian. So I'm really excited for this future, guys. I think he's done a really good job. We just got 2 more recruits, DeAndre Robinson and Melvin Hills III on the defensive line, both 3-star guys, both huge. And it's going to be fun to watch those guys develop when they come on the 40 acres. So far, so good with what Steve Sarkisian has done recruiting-wise. He's really recruited the trenches, and I love that. Because before that, Tom Herman neglected the trenches. Charlie Strong neglected the trenches. The last guy to take the trenches seriously here at Texas was Mac Brown, so I always will respect him for that. But in my opinion, he got a little bit he rested on his success. He didn't stay committed to that success, and you kind of saw that because we started to tail off at the end, and that's why he was ultimately let go. That game in Tuscaloosa could define the whole season. I agree it's a big game. I think people need to chill out about how big of a game it is because it's not a Big 12 game. If this is the Red River rivalry, we're both undefeated, and this is for number 1 in the Big 12, I'm way more concerned about that game because that has a direct impact on our season than Alabama. We could lose the Alabama game, and if we win every other game on our schedule, we're in the college football playoff, period, end of story. So is it a good momentum builder and a really big win under Steve Sarkisian? 100%. And this is the thing that Texas has dealt with in the past, guys, if you haven't followed this program closely. That's like what they talk about, Nick Saban, Kirby Smart, all those guys, all his disciples talk about. It's rat poison. We win that game. Texas teams of old, they would listen to that stuff, and they would immediately be hyping themselves up, thinking, oh, we're going to roll over whoever the next team is we're playing, and they wouldn't bring the game that they needed to bring. And that's the problem here at Texas and what we've gone through, guys. If you watched us closely, we'll have these high points, and we really don't get. We haven't been blown out in big games since Charlie Strong. We didn't get blown out and get big games even when Matt Brown was bad. We didn't get blown out in big games when Tom Herman was there. We haven't gotten blown out big games with Steve Sarkisian. What happens is we get in these games and we're really close, we're really close, and we can't break through. So the next step is breaking through, and then once we break through, how we handle that success. And I'm really interested to see if that's going to happen this year. If it does, we got to handle it, guys. It's one thing to break through once. It's another thing to stay at the top. That's really hard to do. So we got to do it. I've heard that too many years, and that's 100% fair. You have heard that so many years. The difference is people talk about, well, Texas is predicted to finish first. Texas hasn't been predicted to finish first in the Big 12 since, I believe, 2009. So it's been 14 years, guys. This isn't a common occurrence. That is how good this roster is. This roster is loaded. Go look at it. It is loaded. There's no excuses. This is a 10-win team at minimum. If he goes 9-3, I'm going to be disappointed. Me and D4, who's my co-host last year on the Texas postgame show, we talked about this. Last year was a building block year towards the big year. And I thought we did pretty well. Obviously, you would have liked to win the bowl game, and we would have been 9-4, and that would have been a really good year. We went 8-5. It's still an improvement over the 5-7 the year before. We lost to a good Washington team in a close game where if guys were to catch the ball for whatever reason. We had like 6 drops in that game when Quinn Ewers actually played pretty well. We probably would have won, honestly, but we didn't. And hopefully that was a building block for this year. I'm really excited for this team, and we should be a 10-2 team at minimum. Surfer Boy, that's true. It would be a major hangover if Texas beats Bama and T-Town, 100%. And that's like, again, what we have to see happen. Hey, I want us to win that game. That'd be awesome. But if that's going to be the game where we get so hyped and we just look past the rest of the season, lose that game, for God's sakes. Just lose it. Because I would way rather win the Big 12 than beat Alabama. That's just straight up honesty. Alabama game's awesome. And if you really want to grab the bull by the horns or the longhorn by the horns while going in the SEC, beat Alabama and run your freaking schedule. Because the Big 12 isn't that good. And if you do that, you were locked in for the next 2 to 3 years of a top 5 recruiting class to build for the SEC while you're there. And there's a possibility you can sell them on possibly getting to the college football playoff. And that'd be a realistic possibility if you just did it the year before you got in the SEC. So that'd be huge. We'll see if that happens again. This is all hypothetical, and I can't wait for the season to start. The first game is going to be kind of boring, obviously, versus Rice. We get to play JT Daniels again. We played him at every stop. We played him at West Virginia. Played him at USC. We get to play him at Rice now. It's going to be so fun. That is a great question, Ben. I have not been able to reach out to D4. I don't know if he's inactive on Twitter now. That's how him and I communicated, Twitter DM. He kind of went silent on me, and I have no hard feelings for D4. I love D4. He's awesome. I wish I had him. If anyone wants to be a co-host for me for our Texas post-game shows and you know Texas football, reach out to me on Twitter. It is MatthewMS97. Reach out to me. Just DM me or even tag me in a post. I don't really care. If you have any questions, follow me on there as well, MatthewMS97. I really appreciate it, guys. A co-host would be awesome. I loved having D4 as a co-host. I'll reach out to him and see going into the season if he'll be my co-host. But I love just to have someone to bounce ideas back and forth and see if I'm wrong, guys. Like sometimes I have this emotion where it's kind of off from the rest of the fan base, where the rest of the fan base isn't feeling what I'm feeling. And that's perfectly fine. But I want to be locked into the fan base, know if what I'm saying is not reasonable or if it is reasonable. I think that's very interesting conversation to have with another fan. John Delane, where's Texas? I'm beginning to worry that they're never coming back. Man, you just keep trolling, John. Texas is tier 1. Kansas State, Oklahoma, UCF, Texas Tech, Baylor, Oklahoma State, tier 2. I 100% agree. The Big 12, again, most wide open conference. I don't think that's up for debate. It's going to be a fun league to watch. I would love, honestly, I know on Twitter, people are talking about Texas, Oklahoma before they go to the SEC Big 12 championship. But I honestly don't want that. I kind of want a Texas Tech because I'm going to be honest with you guys. Texas Tech, man, Wow, what smoke are they blowing? They have been saying so much on Twitter the past couple months how they're going to be the big recruiter in the Big 12 once we leave, yada yada yada. I would love to play them and whoop their ass, man. You're not even little brother. You're like little step brother. I don't even know what you are, honestly. You're like the ant on the ground that we step on every year. So they just need to shut the hell up. And I watch this. If we lose to them, you guys are going to cut this. Someone is make me look like an idiot, and that's fine. I deserve it. But we need to shut them up. They are annoying. At this point, if I had to rank my hating hierarchy, I would go Texas Tech, Oklahoma, and then honestly probably Oklahoma State. I don't even really hate them that much. I'm actually going to miss playing them. I love watching that game when they play in Stillwater, and I like their fans. But Texas Tech needs to shut the hell up. Our grill. Is a one-loss Texas going to be enough to make it to the playoffs? Okay. Georgia runs the table, goes undefeated. They're in. With our one loss, are you saying we lose to Alabama? Because if that's a possibility, then let's say Alabama runs their schedule, loses one game in the SEC championship game, and they beat us. They're in. Michigan, Ohio State, the winner of that gets in. That's 3. And then it would honestly probably come down to an Ohio State or Penn State one-loss team. And then the Pac-12 champion if they're undefeated, I think. If it's honestly, no, I don't. There's a possibility Texas doesn't get in with that because you would have Georgia, Alabama, Big Ten winner, and Pac-12 winner. Texas could get left out with one loss. Do I think that will happen? No, because I think Alabama, honestly, if they're going to lose the SEC championship game, probably lose another game along the way. And I also think there's a possibility where the Pac-12 champ has 2 losses. I think that's a possibility. I think no matter what, Georgia's getting in because of their schedule, and they're going to probably win the SEC. I don't think they'll win the national championship again this year, but I think they win the SEC. And I think Michigan wins the Big Ten. So I think those 2 teams to me are locks. Also do that before the season starts. I'll put in my top 6 for what I believe is going to be the end of the season college football playoff rankings. It is a possibility Texas with the one loss doesn't get in. Do I think that's a high possibility? No. If I had to draw odds on that, that's probably like 10 to 15%. If they have one loss, most likely they're getting in, especially if that one lost to Alabama. Dependent Fanatic. I agree, Ben. First time watching, and he is good. Thank you. I really appreciate you guys. So please hit that like button. Please subscribe down below. I enjoy your comments, and I love bringing content to you guys. We will get down. I'm going to say in about 3 to 4 minutes. I'll keep reading your comments because you keep piling them in, and I appreciate that. And then we're going to get to the Kansas and Oklahoma breakdown and what I believe the results will be. Like I said, I had us beating Rice 55-20. I believe Wyoming was even worse. I think I said 55-14 or 51-14. And then I had us losing to Alabama. I know I skipped Alabama's second game of the year, but it's the big game, so I left it for last. I had us losing Alabama 28-24. So that puts us at 2-1, and I'll break down Kansas and Oklahoma in just a second. Yeah, exactly. The loss does matter. If we lose to Kansas and Kansas, let's say, goes 7-6, we're probably not in the playoff, honestly, if that scenario happens, which I just drew out. It'd be really hard. What do you guys think? If a Pac-12 team, for example, let's say USC had one loss, but they won the Pac-12 championship. We had one loss. We won the Big 12 championship. And our one loss was to Kansas, and they were 7-6. And USC's one loss was to Washington, and they went 9-3. Who are you putting in? Let's say that means we would have beat Alabama. Honestly, if that's the case, well, I don't know, because that bolsters us even more because we beat Alabama but lost to a worse Big 12 team. That's an interesting proposition. That would be, honestly, if that happens, that would be the first time in probably ever, honestly, in the playoff era where you're like, wow, a team kind of got screwed, because both those teams should make it. They honestly should. Like, if USC has one loss, won the Pac-12 championship, and they lost to Washington, who went 9-3, and we lost one game because of whatever to, let's say, Kansas at 7-6, both those teams are worthy to play for national championship, in my opinion, because we would have beaten Alabama, and Alabama, in my opinion, would probably end the season with 2 losses and still be a top 7-8 team. So that would be interesting. It would be the hardest choice the committee's had to make by far. It would be very interesting. Carson Beck balls out like I know he can. No one can touch Georgia, period. Yes, but the difference is Georgia's defense is not going to be as good as they were last year, and they're definitely not going to be as good as they were the year before. What could trick people is that Georgia's schedule is pathetic. It is very, very weak. Georgia's very good. Don't get me wrong. They're the best team in the country. There's a possibility they win the national championship again. But that schedule is very bad. So this team could be worse than the prior 2 teams, but destroy teams more. And that could trick people. That's honestly what it's going to come down to. Carson Beck's going to have to be a monster. He's going to have to be way better than Stetson Bennett was last year for this team to win a national championship, in my opinion, because the defense is going to be as good. And obviously you don't have proven wide receivers. I don't believe. Maybe I'm wrong on that. Obviously Brock Bowers is phenomenal. So, I mean, you always have him, and they're going to be good on defense. I'm not saying that. Didn't say we're going to be bad, but they're not going to be historic like they were 2 years ago, or even like elite like they were last year. So it's going to come down to more of the offense, and it'll be interesting to see, especially without your offense coordinator that you've had without Todd Monken. It's going to be very interesting. RG Grow, a 1-loss Big Ten runner-up or SEC runner-up would most likely be in a 1-loss USC and maybe a 1-loss FSU. Yeah, that will be very interesting. Oh, I agree. You guys have a lot of depth, but you guys don't. Come on, you don't have a Jordan Davis on your team. You don't have a Nolan Smith right now on your team that we know of. That could change. Do I think it's going to? No, those guys are studs, and they're good in the NFL. You don't have a Jalen Carter right now. We'll have to see. Like I said, I still think you guys are going to be very good. I just don't think you guys are going to go from all-time great to elite again. I think it'll still be a very good defense. I think you'll be a top 10 defense for sure, maybe even top 5, probably top 5, honestly, but you're not going to be an elite or an all-time great defense like you were 2 years ago. Possibility you're elite, yeah. But again, I think you're going to have to get better quarterback play. I do, because I don't think your running game is going to be as good as it normally is. I just don't. But are you guys going to make the college football playoff? 100%. Will you guys make the national championship? Depends who you get in the first round, but there's probably a coin toss on that. I just don't think you're going to win it. I think going for a three-peat is so hard in college football. I just don't see it happening. It hasn't happened in like 80 years or something like that. Dependent fanatic. Oh, I messed up there. I was already subscribed, LOL, so I like this guy before it's been a while. Thank you. I appreciate that. And for all you guys in there that haven't subscribed yet, please subscribe, like the content. Turn on that notification bell. I really appreciate that. And I know Mark does as well. Go over to the Texas channel and do the same thing. We're trying to grow that brand so badly. We want to get that up like the Ohio State channel, the Michigan channel. I believe the Florida State channel has a lot of followers too. So we're trying to grow it like those brands and the many other college football brands we have on the voice of college football, as you see down below, Mark Rogers TV. Don't have AD Mitchell either. Yes, that would be nice. Anthony Hill should be starting. Paxton, I would be shocked if he didn't start. I mean, there's reports out of camp that they're going to line him up on edge a lot of the time to rush the passer. So it would really shock me if he doesn't start at linebacker as well. I think you're going to see him being used like the Cowboys use Micah Parsons, honestly, a little bit at middle linebacker, a little bit at edge, mostly on edge. But I think you're going to see the versatility being shown by Anthony Hill. I think he's going to have a fantastic season. I have no doubt there. I only have doubt about our depth at the linebacker position. I trust Jalen Ford. I trust Anthony Hill. After that, it is very thin at the linebacker position. I really appreciate that, Surfer Boy. Thank you very much for tuning in. And guys, Paxton, I agree with this. I think Anthony Hill and Jalen Ford have the potential to be the best linebacker combination in the Big 12, probably top 5 or top 6 in the country. That's how good those guys are, especially Jalen Ford got freaking robbed of the Big 12 Defensive Player of the Year. Also, I don't know if you guys have heard this. I may butcher the stat a little bit, but it's pretty spot on. I believe Texas and Oklahoma's opponents last year between the two only had a combined 3 holding attempts called. That's insane. If you say, "Oh, you're just crying over, whatever," I'm not. Those are stats. It may be a little bit off. It might be 4 or 5, but I know 5 is the max. It's insane. We got screwed by the Big 12 last year. It's going to happen again a little bit. Again, I'm not complaining because Texas's roster is good enough to where we can still beat teams with a little bit of help, even with a little bit of help for the other team with the refs. And that's what they got last year. Probably going to get it again. I mean, it's not a conspiracy, guys, when the deputy commissioner's coming out and saying they left for the money and that they don't care about the wins and losses. They'll go lose to Florida, Mississippi State, and I forget what the other team he said. But just like, really got to say that publicly? Come on, man, you show some class. But it is what it is. Yeah, Jett Bush, don't ever bring that name up to me again. You should never see the field at Texas. Do you think Jett Bush would have ever seen the field on that 2005 national championship team? Do you think it would have seen the field on that 2009 team? Do you think it would have been shown the field on the 2008 team? No, he is not good. He's bad. He's a good pass rusher, terrible in coverage, not a good linebacker, doesn't really see the ball, gets stuck behind the line of scrimmage. Yeah, he looked good in the spring game. I don't care about spring game. We'll see what happens, but he should not see the field that much. I think Texas has one of the toughest schedules in the Power 5. A one-loss Texas would definitely get the committee a hard decision. 100% it would. I would love for them to put the committee in that position because I'd love to see how the committee reacts because they really haven't had to make that many hard decisions. And I would love for my Longhorns to get in that position. Next up, we are going to talk about this, guys, because I promised it. Kansas breakdown versus Texas and what Kansas brings back and all that stuff and what I believe the score of that game will be. So we are going to start out with the Jayhawks, which went 6-7 last year. They went 3-6 in the conference. Their offense last year was actually very good, guys. 35.6 points per game, 21st in the country. Defense was at 35.5 points per game. Not good. 124th out of 131 teams in the FBS. This is insane to me, guys. This is number 2 in the country. They returned 85% of their total production. That is number 2 in the whole country, not the Big 12, the whole country. They returned 91% of their offense production, which I believe is number 1 in the whole country. They basically returned every good player, returning Jalen Daniels, as we talked about, running back and leading rusher, Devin Neal. He had 1,090 yards last year, 6.1 yards per carry, and 9 touchdowns. They also returned Lawrence Arnold, their leading receiver. And on defense, they bring back Rick Miller and Craig Young at linebacker, the 2 leading tacklers, on top of their leading tackler and great safety in Kenny Logan Jr. Losses are mostly on the trenches on defense. Kansas is going to be better this year. They were pretty good last year at 6-7. If Jalen Daniels doesn't get hurt, they probably have more wins than that. I think Kansas goes 8-4 this year. I really believe that. I think they're an 8-4 football team, but they are going to lose to my Longhorns. They come to Austin and they are going to lose this game, guys, 34-21. I believe that is the score. That is what I believe. I believe Texas beats Kansas 34-21. That makes us 4-1 on the season, or 3-1 on the season. Sorry, with our 1 loss to Alabama. We have beaten Rice. We have beaten Wyoming. We have lost Alabama, and now we have beaten Kansas 34-21. And that brings us to the big game, always the big game, the Red River rivalry, Oklahoma. Oklahoma last year, guys, this is funny just to look at. Kansas went 6-7. Guess what? So did you Sooners. 6-7, 3-6 overall in the conference. Offense, decent. 33rd overall, definitely not their Lincoln Riley days where they're putting up 50 points a game and they're a top 10 offense in the country. 32.8 points per game on offense. Defense, Brent Venables, you have no excuse. This should have been better. 30 points per game, 99th, guys. 99th out of 131 teams. They have to be better in this area. They have to. If this team does not improve, in my opinion, and get to the 70s on defense even, Brad Venables isn't your guy. If he can't improve you 29 spots and just get you to 70, just get you to 70, that isn't even putting you as that's putting you exactly basically in the middle almost of an average college football defense. Then he's not your guy. He's just not. They returned Dylan Gabriel and also Drake Stoops, who was their second leading receiver, after Marvin Mims, who did leave. That's a gigantic loss. I think he's going to be good in the NFL. I'm a Broncos fan. I'm excited to have Marvin Mims. I think he's a very good wide receiver, and I think he's going to be very good in Sean Payton's system. Eric Gray, leading rusher, gone as well. They bring back a familiar face at tight end, Austin Stogner, who went away, followed Shane Beamer to South Carolina, and then came back to Oklahoma, so he's back. They also bring in Dasan McCullough, who was second team All Big Ten at linebacker. I think that's a big, big, big addition for Brent Venables on defense, seeing how bad they were. This game will not be 49-0, guys. It will not be 49-0. I can promise you that. Oklahoma will be better this year. I'm thinking probably 8-4 for them as well. I think Oklahoma and Kansas are going to be on the same tier just like they were last year. And I think part of the reason is Oklahoma's schedule is easy. It's probably the easiest schedule in the Big 12. I think they'll be better. I think they'll be 8-4 based off. I think Brent Venables is going to get the defense better. I don't think they're going to be great on defense. I think they can get to the average mark. I think they're going to be about the same on offense, maybe a little bit better. And I think with the schedule being the way it is, I think Oklahoma's 8-4, but they're taking that out. Texas is going to whoop that ass in the Red River rivalry in Dallas. We are winning this game 37-23, guys. 37-23. You know what? I will fix that. I'm going to guess 37-26, actually. So it's an 11-point game. Not the type of ass kicking that we gave them last year, but still an ass kicking, in my opinion. Anytime you can beat a rival by more than 2 scores. So there it is, guys. Texas, I believe, goes into a bye at 4-1, 2-0 in the Big 12. 4-1 overall. I will take that. That is my prediction so far. Again, this is preseason. The week of the game starting, I will make a full season prediction. I will be right here to do it. But for right now, I have us at 4-1. W versus Rice, W versus Wyoming, loss versus Alabama, win versus Kansas, win versus Oklahoma. And that is what I have for you guys tonight on the schedule. We will get right back into those comments. Wow, now we're just throwing shit at the city of Austin. Savion Red on special teams. I think you will see Savion Red on special teams. I think you'll see Savion Red in the backfield a lot. I'm not sure he carries the ball a ton, but I think you'll see him start in the backfield and then split out wide for a lot of receptions. I think he will get some carries. I expect him to probably be the 4th leading carrier on the team. Honestly, I think you'll see more carries from obviously Jonathan Brooks, Cedric Baxter, and maybe even Keelan Robinson, but or Jaden Blue. But I think he could be the 4th guy on the team, honestly, in that department. And that was from Paxton. Wow, Texas isn't getting that many wins. How many wins are we getting? I'm more likely to pick K-State or Tech to win before. Why Tech? Kansas State, fine, but why Tech? I agree Kansas will be tough out this season. Yeah, I agree too. I think, Surfer Boy, I think Kansas is being slept on. Like I said, you're returning 85% of your production on your whole team and then 91% on the strong point, which was your offense with, in my opinion, the best quarterback in the conference or second best, whatever you want to say. No doubt in my mind, I think Kansas at least wins 7 games. I have them at 8-4. I think 9-3 is a little bit of a stretch. Dependent Fanatic, thank you. I really appreciate that. Thank you a lot for going to that Texas channel. Ooh, hot take. I like this. Jackson Arnold starts against Texas. I think that is a possibility. I think it's going to take an injury, honestly, because I think Oklahoma up until that point has a very easy schedule, just like most of their schedule. So I think it's going to take an injury. Now, if that does happen, I think there's a chance Jackson Arnold keeps that job. I really believe that. We'll have to see. Oklahoma will go 9-3. Kansas will step back. Whoa, 4-8. I don't know about that. I'd have to dive deeper into Kansas's schedule, but I think they have more than 4 wins. I think minimum, in my opinion, 7. I think no, I'll take it back. Minimum 6. I think that it's somewhere between 6 and 8. I'm going with the high side. I believe in Lance Leipold. I believe in Jalen Daniels. If he stays healthy, obviously, if Jalen Daniels destroys his knee first play of game 1 or game 2, that's a different season. But I fully believe if he's healthy, this team wins 8 games. Okay, you guys are talking politics. Knock it off with that. if Quinn returns next season, that means the season is a disaster. Yes, it either means it's an absolute disaster or he got so close to winning a national championship he wants to come back. Those are the only two possibilities. If we get within, like, let's say we go to the national championship, we lose 41-38 last second field goal, and then Texas just offers him a crap ton of money to come back, I could see that. But that's like the only thing I could see positive wise if he comes back. John, I honestly think this is an 8-4 Texas team. If Texas goes 8-4, it's a gigantic disappointment. It is. It's a gigantic disappointment. 10-2 is, in my opinion, with the roster you have, is realistic. No shame in losing to Alabama. No shame in losing a random Big 12 game. But to me, to lose 3 Big 12 games with this schedule it's abysmal. It should not happen. By the way, we go out of the state of Texas, I believe, one time the whole year, and that's to play Alabama. We don't leave the state of Texas after that the whole year. We play Oklahoma and Dallas. We play TCU at TCU. We play Baylor at Baylor. So it's abysmal. It should not happen. We need to go 10-2 minimum, period. That is true. I will give you that, Dependent Fanatic. They will not surprise anyone. That surprise factor has been gone. But to me, I just can't see 4-8. If you told me 6-6 lose a bowl game, 6-7 is last year, but they're a better team, but they're not surprising people, I can go along with that. 4-8 to me, I just don't see happening. I think they're a better football team than that. Oh my God, Christopher Foote. Can we stop this? Can we stop it? You said some crazy stuff. Kansas does not suck. Where is the only place champions are won? I'm very confused by what that means. Because what I watched last year, I thought they were a pretty good football team. They returned most of their guys, and they return, in my opinion, the best or second best quarterback in this conference. In my opinion, the best quarterback. On top of, I believe I had Lance Leipold as the second or third best coach in this conference. So that's why I'm high on Kansas. I think they're an 8-4 football team. I could see, again, 6-6. I could see. You can talk me into that, but that's the minimum. I can't see anything worse than 6-6. I just can't. Wow. Okay, Paxton. That's the first one I've heard of that. 11-1 loss at Iowa State. That wouldn't shock me. That's such a Texas game to lose. Losing, you're undefeated up until that point. Losing to Iowa State, that is a very difficult. Back to back. By the way, late in the season we go at TCU, at Iowa State, so that wouldn't shock me at all. That's actually a good prediction to find a loss. And my prediction, I'll probably honestly have a loss between one of those two as well. I could. Like I said, I already have Alabama. I'm probably going to have a loss with either TCU or Iowa State, even though I don't think TCU is going to be very good this year. They always play us pretty tough, especially in Fort Worth. So it's going to be interesting when we go there. Bill still ranks Kansas as the 36th toughest schedule. That does mean a little bit to me. Again, returning production plays a lot into that. That's honestly what I put more into, and they have the second most returning production in the country. On top of that, I would have to look at the other teams they play. Obviously, in the Big 12, Texas has a decent amount of returning production, but after that, there's a lot of teams that don't have much returning. I know when I looked at Baylor, they had basically nobody returning. So I think Kansas, honestly, I'm just high on them, guys. I just am. I could be 100% wrong. I think the teams that I'm more high on than most people are Kansas and Oklahoma State. The teams that I'm down on most people are TCU and probably Oklahoma. I'm not that high on either of those teams. I think Oklahoma's an 8-4, maybe 9-3 team. I think TCU's a 7-5 team. I do. Do you see BYU beating Oklahoma in Provo? That is a very interesting game. It's a weird game. I have to look at the schedule of when Oklahoma play. I knew that was happening. I just don't know when. That matters to a lot in college football when these games happen. What are they sandwiched in between? Are they coming off a bye? Are they looking up into a bye? We'll have to see. I'd have to look at their schedule to know that for exact, but it's interesting. Is Texas the Big 12 only shot for the playoff? I think if they don't go 12-1 and win a conference championship, the Big 12 is left out. Would you care, though, going into the SEC? I don't give a shit about the rest of the Big 12. I just don't. It'd be awesome if there's certain teams in the Big 12 I don't hate. I don't, obviously, the new teams, I don't hate any of them. I don't hate Kansas. I don't hate Oklahoma State, honestly. The only teams I dislike are Texas Tech. Not a gigantic fan of Baylor and Oklahoma. Those are like the only three. Oklahoma State, I'm not a fan of, but it wouldn't bother me if they had a great year and somehow made the college football playoff. That's not going to happen. But yeah, realistically speaking, I honestly think Texas is the only shot for the Big 12 to make the college football playoff. Oklahoma was 6-7 last year. Yes, they were not good. I was shocked, honestly, when I saw Kansas was number 2. That really surprised me. I can look up number 1 in returning production. I don't even have a guess. It's going to be interesting. Florida State is number 1 in returning production. They lead all teams with 87%. So that bodes well for anyone thinking that Florida State's going to have a good year. That's a lot of returning production, and they added transfers on top of that. Keon Coleman from Michigan State. So I think they're going to play. They're going to be very good. Are you buying West Virginia last in the media poll? I hope they go undefeated. We do not play them this year. No, they're going to be bad. They're going to be either the worst or second worst team. I believe Cincinnati or West Virginia finishes the worst in this conference. Oklahoma did play Florida State in a bowl game very closely. I believe it was 24-23. So, and a lot of guys sat out. But bowl games to me don't really mean much anymore because people don't really care, honestly, anymore, which is sad, but it's true. So it's going to be interesting. Guys, I think I'm going to have to cut this one, but you guys have been awesome tonight. I really appreciate you guys. Again, this is Texas Tuesday Live here with me, Matthew Miller. I'm glad you got to sit down, enjoy your time with me. I hope you can be back here next Tuesday at 7:30 Eastern time. I will be back. Please hit that like button. Please subscribe down below. Hit the notification bell. Go over to the Texas channel. Subscribe over there. I'm going to be here for every Tuesday leading up into the season, every Tuesday breaking down the games during the season, and every Saturday or Friday after the games during the season. So please hit that like button. Please subscribe down below. It really helps out this channel, guys. It really helps grow this content. I love you guys. It's awesome talking with you. I want 100 people in here at one point. That's my goal. That is my goal here, guys. And then we're going to move up the goal even further because that's why we put goals so we can achieve them. So please hit that like button. Please subscribe down below. I am Matthew Miller. If you have any questions for me, go to Twitter. Type in my name, Matthew, go MS97. DM me. Thank you guys very much. It has been awesome. Love you guys. Thank you.